Esther Buerki, the author of Living Without Fear and the co-publisher of the Amazon best-selling Inspired Journeys. Get in touch with me if you want to start living without fear or writing your book. And please share this podcast with a friend who you know needs to hear this episode, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're listening now on a podcast platform, you can do me a great favor by writing a short review or rate it with a lot of stars if you enjoyed it. And I cannot believe it. I have already people from 71 countries who have been listening to Living Without Fear. Isn't this amazing? And today I'd like to share my experience with my last reading in Switzerland, in Zurich. I had the big chance to read at a friend's place at Nadine Bedill's Prosperity Space. I met Nadine a few years ago online on Facebook, and we had once spoken on the phone, but I've never met her in person until last August. It was at Dr. Joe Dispenza's 3-day event in Basel, together with 7,000 people. And during a coffee break, I suddenly discovered Nadine among all those thousands of people. That has been such a touching moment. So when she opened her prosperity space a few months ago, I knew I'd love to read there, and it was just the perfect place. All felt aligned. I didn't read in front of a huge audience this time, but everybody who was there was meant to be there. It's been mind-blowing, and I strongly felt the great energy in the room, so that I felt so much at ease to read. I wasn't nervous. I just felt right, and as if I had done it all my life. Isn't this beautiful? So that's why I'd like to talk about dreams, about your dream and what it needs that your dream comes true one day. Believe me, there was a time when I thought I was too old to make my dream of being an author and making readings come true. There has been this voice in my head who said back then, if you didn't do it yet during all these years, why should you do it when you're already over 50 years old? Why? And my overcritical voice in my head, coming from my father, would add to all this, being an author is such a dead-end job. It doesn't make sense to even try it. But there was always still this little voice in my head or heart who was telling me, Esther, you're a writer. Trust yourself. Listen to all the feedback you get from your newspaper articles. People told you many times that they loved your writing. They loved how you described other people. I heard these voices, but I didn't believe in myself. My father, and you also find a passage about this in my book, Living Without Fear, would confirm my self-doubts. He said once, everybody can write newspaper articles. This isn't a big deal. But when I met coaches, and it was at the time when I knew I have to reinvent myself, otherwise I would want to end this life. I heard these coaches saying, think about your dreams. What has always been your dream, but you didn't dare to do it? I remembered my dream of writing and publishing books and doing readings and signing books. And if you are new here, I started with my first book a few years ago. It was a children's book, Leonard and Lulu, a book about my younger son and our cat, beautifully illustrated by the Bulgarian artist Teodora Dimitrova. Back then, I was still afraid of publishing my biography and the story about my fears. But all I learned along the way of publishing this first children's book, and also the second one called Leonor and Leah, made me stronger mentally. Those first books prepared me to do the readings about my story and not being afraid of criticism, but just enjoying the process. So, if you have this one dream since years and years, I tell you today, you need to start with it. Do a small step, a tiny step, and you might fall down, but then you get up and you try again and again and again. My first book didn't get published right away. There have been many obstacles, many moments of despair or frustration. For example, when I got the first sample from the printing house, the book looked awful. It didn't feel right. The colors were odd, but I didn't give up. I kept on doing, and the creation of the second book didn't go smoothly either. The artist didn't understand first what kind of illustrations I'd love to have for the second book. I nearly wanted to give up. I flew to Bulgaria to meet her in person and to get aligned with her on my ideas of the needed illustrations. And all the obstacles I experienced with the latest book, Living Without Fear. But I'm so glad that I didn't give up. I'm so grateful that I listened to my Tony Robbins coach and I pushed through all the hurdles and the frustration. I stopped my inner voices, which were telling me that this book will not be good enough to be presented to an audience. And I know today it was worth it. If I hadn't published it, I wouldn't feel so happy and fulfilled. So I want to encourage you once more to listen to your dreams, to start with tiny steps. My Tony Robbins coach calls them the 2-millimeter shifts. And if you fail or if you lose your courage again, if you have stopped for a few days on working on it, or even a few weeks, or even years, it's worth it to restart and to do the tiny steps towards your dream. Maybe I will talk again about my next dreams in a future episode, because my journey with publishing the book Living Without Fear doesn't end here. There is more to come. Thank you, dear listener, for spending your time with me and not giving up, searching for more. And I cannot repeat it enough. In case you feel worthless and nobody seems to like you, I tell you, you're awesome, you're lovable, and the world needs you. And please, please, don't stop telling yourself these sentences. Have an amazing day and talk to you next week.